this video, we're going to be looking at scatter plots and trend lines, or how can you describe the relationship between two variables and use it to make predictions. A scatter plot is a graph with data points on it. It has data points and no lines. Now we're going to look at correlation, and in this left example, we see that there are a bunch of dots moving up this graph. They seem to be moving up, so this is considered a positive correlation. The right example is similar but in the opposite direction, so it is a negative correlation. But if we have a graph with dots all over the place and there seems to be no real pattern to it, this is that there is no correlation. If I tried to make an educated guess on what would happen outside of the data set, such in this left example, this would be an extrapolation. That's where I'm going to use my trend line that we'll later get to do on how to figure out what that future or past behavior could be. If I was trying to figure out what a point would be within it where there is not a data value, that's an interpolation. Once we have our data values on a graph, we can try and find a trend line. And a trend line is a line with an equation such as y is equal to mx plus b that follows the plots of the scatter plot. I first recognize that the median age is something that will change. It's not a normal progression, so that'll be my y. And years are a progression through time, so I'm making this my x variable, measuring from the beginning of 1970, being 0 and 10 as my input variable, starting at 0 and going at intervals of 10. Now I'm going to construct a graph, putting intervals of 5 down my y-axis and intervals of 10 across my x-axis. At this point, I'm going to plot my data values, my x's and y's, onto the graph that I started to build before, placing each point as accurately as I can. Once that's done, I use a straight edge to try and make as close as I can to the center of my data points, giving me my trend line. Now all that's going to be left is to write an equation. I'm going to use slope-intercept form of y is equal to mx plus b. I'm measuring for slope, and I see that it travels across the x-axis 40 units, and it travels up 9 units. This is going to give me my rate of change of 9 over 40. I see that my y-intercept is a first point given, and my y-intercept is 29.2. Now it's time to simply substitute the information into my y is mx plus b form. M, my slope, being 9 over 40, and my y-intercept b being 29.2. So I get y is equal to 9 over 40 x plus 29.2. It's important when analyzing data to remember the key idea that correlation does not prove causation, so these two things might not actually be related. Just a thought, if I were a number, I'd be an irrational one.